Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Let me just quickly introduce Inbal Baum, who is a former attorney and a yoga instructor, who also has founded Israel's leading culinary tourism company, Delicious Israel. And this was 10 years ago. After she worked as an attorney in New York City, years of Jewish and Israel related organizational work and consulting in the private and public sectors, Inbal left behind the office jobs and immigrated to Israel to follow her entrepreneurial heart and passion. For over 10 years, Delicious Israel's intimate culinary crusades have become one of the country's most enticing ways to explore Israeli cuisine. As a serial entrepreneur, Imbal's latest global venture, which was in response to the coronavirus pandemic, Delicious Experiences, is a platform that now connects food enthusiasts with the world's top chefs through private virtual culinary workshops. And Imbal is about to give us this exciting gift of a tour through some of Israel's flavor and culture, and the people who make it all. So, Imbal, please take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a real honor. And I just want to say thank you to the folks of Jcation and of TC Jew Folk. It's amazing what you guys have put together and what you're doing over the years. So I definitely strongly recommend that anyone who is here today and anyone who's listening support this incredible cause and all the work they're doing throughout the year. And especially this is a match donation situation, so you really can't get any better. You're basically doubling down. So I highly recommend, whether you are planning to come to Israel or enjoy Israeli food or not, which if you don't, then I don't know who you really are, but that you just take the time to support this incredible cause. So thank you for having me, and to all the supporters who made this possible. So let's talk food. I do just want to, I got this wonderful introduction, which of course during my food tours, I don't have a Genevieve to, to introduce myself, but I do just want to kind of say a few words because, through this journey, coming to Israeli food was such a personal, coming to the career of sharing about Israeli food was such a personal situation. I mean, what happened was my parents, who are both Israeli, they really raised me, although I grew up in the United States, hence my name Inbal, but I say it, you can hear my accent. They really raised me with going to Israel, and what's the most important thing you do when you go to Israel. I think if anyone here has been to Israel, you all know it's you eat Israeli food. So for me growing up, Israel was food and family and love. And so throughout that journey of becoming an attorney and a yoga instructor and working in human rights and all the different things that I did, at the end of the day, what I really loved the most was Israel. And when I finally moved to Israel, made Aliyah 11 and a half years ago, I went on this personal journey and I asked, what is it that I actually want to do with my days? And what I discovered was I wanted to eat and I wanted to be around food and I wanted to talk about Israeli food. So I had a light bulb moment about oh, you know what I should do next time? I just realized I should put a light bulb in my background. I had a light bulb moment where I was out with a friend. He was visiting. It was about 10 years ago. I was doing a different job at the time. I was out with a friend in Israel and I was showing him my favorite spice shop and my favorite place to eat this thing and introducing him to this new thing he had never had before. And he looked at me and he goes, Inbal, people would pay you for this information and for this experience. And I was like, yes, when I travel, all I want to do is have someone local show me around. So about 10 years ago, it was before food tourism was really a thing, which now everyone, hopefully goes on food tours when you're traveling. And it was before Israeli food was what it was today, which thank goodness is really taken over the world. I started this company, Delicious Israel. And for me, getting to do what I love, it was a passion project for a few years. That's all. I kind of just went to the streets and did this. And luckily a few years later, I had two groups at the same time. So I had to bring someone else, and then I had groups of 50 and we had to divide them down. So as of March, I was running a team of 23 people. And it's been a very, very hard transition to this new world. But I'm so grateful that this has also opened up opportunities to share our Israeli food in this way, because I don't think we would have done this. And we wouldn't have done this 7 months ago. So I'm very grateful for that. And I also see some friendly faces. Hi, Cheryl, in the crowd. People that I've worked with even in my new business, which is an offshoot of Delicious Israel. It's a global experiences company. We offer food tourism. We offer food experiences for anyone, for anywhere, not related to Israel as well. Mixology classes, and we did with Cheryl last week. A cooking class. So definitely check out Delicious Experiences. But let's get to it. Let's talk about Israeli cuisine. To do this, what we're going to do over the next bit of time is I am going to be sharing a screen. I'm going to share my presentation with you, and I'm also going to be sharing videos with you. Throughout, I'm going to be asking questions. So I do hope that whoever is here will be interested in participating, whether on video or if you want to put into the chat. And I see that that Amy and Dana, I guess, Dana, we're supposed to be in Israel. So I hope that this is just a little bit of flavor. I hope you guys have some Israeli snacks with you, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I do apologize in advance for my incapability with technical things. I'm not the most technically savvy person. I love food, but I will do my best. All right, so we are going to talk about, as I mentioned today, Israeli food. So what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking a little bit about the food, the history, the culture, and the people, and some important lessons that I've learned along the way as well. Now, to do this, I want to get in the spirit, besides the snacks, which I do hope you have with you. If anyone brought hummus and pita, you know, good. You're going to get hungry. So let's talk about some important key words for us. Ta'im. Ta'im, I kind of loosely translated. It's delicious. There's not exactly a word for delicious. So ta'im means tasty. So if you see something that you like, you can give me a thumbs up on your screen, or tell us you think it's ta'im. So this is a very important word when you go to Israel, to be able to tell everyone what's ta'im or lo ta'im, which is not tasty. And the next very important word, which we're going to share in our food journey today, b'te avon, which essentially means bon appetit, to your appetite. So we're going to I hope you have a good appetite for what we're going to be eating today on our tour. So what does Israeli food mean to you? Now, why don't we, let's see, Genevieve, are they able to unmute, or we can also do this in the chat as well, if it's easier. But I do want to hear from you. When I say Israeli cuisine, what are the kinds of things that come to mind? So if you're able to unmute, I would love to hear. Genevieve, are they able to unmute?
I'm not sure. Can somebody try?
Leslie? Falafel, yay, thank you, good. What else? Oh, come on, falafel is not the only thing in Israeli food. Anybody else?
Beef.
Sabich, so good, yes. Sabich is a dish with eggplant and egg and vegetables. What other delicious food do you think about? There's your sabich.
Hummus, knafe, halva, shakshuka.
Really in the crowd here. Thank you.
I always think of how much I love Israeli breakfast.
Yes, that is my favorite meal in Israel, the Israeli breakfast, hotel breakfast with incredible spreads. Such a good story behind that too, which we can talk about. So Israeli food, all of the things you named, except for sabich, I would argue are not necessarily pinned to Israel. What do I mean by that? Although we consider them Israeli because they're so staple in our society, especially the Israeli breakfast and the shakshuka, falafel, hummus, things like that, they actually came from everywhere around the world. Now, people don't think of Mexican tacos as Israeli, or Canadian maple syrup, or Argentinian chimichurri, but today, because of this a mixing of our society. And I tend not to call it a melting pot. I tend to call it a mosaic, because I do believe that that each culture really stands strong on its own, and we haven't blended, although it's all a melting pot in the sense that we're all in the same very small physical place. A lot of it tends to be you go to this type of place to get this type of food, or this grandmother only cooked this. She didn't have familiarity with anything outside of her culture. But that said, today things are changing and it's getting so diverse, and we're finding things really from everywhere. But that's been a function over what's been going on over time, and we'll talk about that as well. So to do that, we're going to visit a place, and I have to be totally honest, I am not in Israel right now. During the lockdown, which started a few weeks ago, my family, including my 2 young kids and I, said, you know what, this is a disaster. We're going to get out. So we came to my parents in Maryland. So I'm closer to your time zone, but we're going to visit Tel Aviv, and we're going to head to an important place. But first, I just want to tell you a little bit of history. Going back into 1909, what you see here, these beautiful, I love these old photos of Tel Aviv. This is the top picture, is the center of Tel Aviv in 1909. Today it's called Rothschild Boulevard, which is the heart of the finance center. A little over 100 years ago, there was absolutely nothing there. Those sand dunes are literally the heart of Tel Aviv. Now what happened? 66 families came to this sand dune. They did this seashell lottery. Based on the number that they got on the seashell, that's the plot of land that they got on Rothschild Boulevard. Now the picture below that is 1 year later, 1910. So you see it's bustling already. The city, the metropolis city is growing. We have the houses that are being built around there. Those are based on the plots of land that they got, mostly made from the sand, from seashells, from stone, from cement. And in the middle there's the first business of Tel Aviv. It was a small kiosk that was opened in 1910. Or the first food business, I should say. And what they sold there was ice cream and a drink called gazoz, which was a bubbly, syrupy drink. Basically, you see the kids gathering around there. They would come give some coins and get this, not very artisanal, but a refreshing drink for the hot days. Now, this is a few years later. This is Tel Aviv in the 1930s. And again, I just adore these photos. On the far left, you see a picture of Shuk Aliyah, which is the where the distributors of the produce would come. The farmers would come to deliver their produce, and then distributors would come and take it to their markets. Here in the middle, we have the most important summer fruit, gentlemen yelling avatiach, avatiach. And you can see just the character, how they're dressed. It's a beautiful. And then the far right is an important part of what we're going to talk about today. Also, the cafe scene, the coffee scene, and these well-heeled ladies and gentlemen out for their coffee, sitting outside in the very hot weather, getting some air. And here we are today. Very colorful city, lots of, I would say, really the heart of the world, in my opinion, the food world. Incredible produce and just a lot of flavor. So again, to get us in the mood, I want us to listen to some sounds. I do want to warn you, if your sound is high, you may want to turn it alone. Although I consider these soothing sounds, maybe not everybody does. So our first, the first place we're going to visit today. La, 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 la. All right, so we're gonna meet whoever that was. Our next visit. All right, I think you guys can guess, if anyone was hearing all the screaming, where that might have been. It was the heart of the market, our shuk. And our last place, one of our other places that we're going to visit that I want you to...
Welcome, everyone! Hey, guys! Hey, thank you that you came to my place. Come inside. Come, we dance. A long time we didn't dance because of the corona.
So unfortunately, her shop is still not receiving, she had to be closed. We haven't danced for a long time because of the corona. So our main focus today is going to be in an area in Tel Aviv called the Carmel Market. And we see this beautiful picture down below of the Carmel market in the 1950s, and above is when it's emptied out, nobody there because of the corona, when they had to close the market. So let's watch our first video. And oops. Just a second here. Sorry, again. I apologize again for my technical lack of savvy.
שלום לכולם, שמי שלמה כהן, נולדתי בבית הזה פה למעלה, הרחתי קפה מגיל 0 וגם ניהלתי את החנות בתור ילד, למדתי גם לקלוט קפה. זה חלק מהטרדישן פה במשפחה הזאת, ואכן רוב חיי לא הייתי בחנות, בעיקר הלכנו ללמוד. הייתי מורה בתיכון, פרשתי באמת לפנסיה, לימדתי לשון עברית בצייטלין ובהולץ, פרשתי לפנסיה, בפנסיה אתה לא בא לעבוד. בפנסיה אתה עושה את כל הדברים הטובים שאתה אוהב. אתה בוחר את הפנטזיות שלך ועושה אותם. זהו. ואכן בחרתי לעצמי לעשות פה רק קפה. אין קפה טוב. יש קפה, רק שחשוב שהקפה יהיה טרי. זה נכון, ולכן אני מינימום פעם בשבוע, אם לא פעמיים בשבוע, אני קולה קפה. הקפה מותאם לטעם של האנשים. אחד אוהב את הקפה בסגנון כזה, השני אוהב את הקפה בסגנון אחר, ואין קפה טוב. כל אחד אוהב את זה אחרת, ויש להתאים לכל אחד את הטעם שלו. עכשיו, כלומר, השירה זה הדבר הכי חשוב לי בפנסיה. ואכן, כל יום שישי אנחנו רק שרים פה. יש לי פה פסנתר חשמלי, יש לי מיקרופון, אם כי אני לא צריך מיקרופון בשביל לשיר, וזהו, ושרים פה. זה הדבר הכיף הגדול ביותר. ואני אתן לכם טעימה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש.
All right, a very important part of Israeli society is the coffee. Now, a quick story about the coffee. We are, and this is crazy, we are the only country in the world that, here I have my very, oops. This is a trivia question. What logo is this? The Starbucks. We are the only country in the world that Starbucks came, failed, and never came back. Now, how can that be? We are a very deeply coffee drinking society, but people want, there was actually some interesting MBA studies about this, and they found out a few things. Number one, flavor of the coffee. Israelis love to have a kind of a deep roast, but not that burnt flavor that the Starbucks have. So that's one thing. When a company comes, like McDonald's, they create flavors that are fitting towards the society. So it's not that we don't have chains, it's that coffee in particular was something that Israelis have a specific flavor of. But maybe more importantly, in terms of the cultural aspect of things, when you go to a cafe in Israel, you sit. You drink out of a cup, a solid cup, not a paper cup. and you enjoy the time there. People say that they rate, for a while they're raising the cost of the coffee because you're basically renting your space there for the 2 hours that you'll be sitting there. So that was when Starbucks came, takeaway coffee was not prevalent. Today, things have changed. Over the past 15 years, there are plenty of takeaway coffee places and people will drink out of a cup. But the other important thing, so there's the fact that you have to sit, and the cafe, like we saw in that picture from the 1930s, that cafe was a place of gathering. The other important aspect was food. When you have coffee in Israel, you sit and you get a salad, a sandwich, a cake, something light to go along with your coffee. Starbucks at the time did not have that. Again, Starbucks has changed as well, but it is important when you're sitting and relaxing with your friends that you are able to order something. So Starbucks was a big disaster, but I also think it's funny what Shlomo Cohen in our video, our coffee producer, what he says to me is, I asked him, if you saw that, in that video, very, very basic, what's there? He's got his coffee roaster, he sells his coffee, that's it. There's no hanging around. He does sell prepared coffee, but it's not essential to his business. And I asked him one time, how come you don't create, sell a few food things so that we can sit down? And he goes, I want people to enjoy their coffee and I want them to get out as quickly as possible. So you get, when you get to this area around the Carmel market, the Yemenite corridor, where you have people selling for generations, you get a real honest opinion. And when you do what you love, and that brings us, I'm gonna share my screen again, to important lessons that I learned from the people in the market. When you do what you love, that's what you do. So so you find your passion and you do that. Now, I am going to go back just a second here. So we are in the Carmel market, and what I want to also show you, and I'm going to pull up another video here. Again, my apologies. No, we're going to skip that one. I'll see if I can get it up in a second. So what's the next important food? Let's talk about, if we're talking about one core food, we talked about, I heard people mention falafel, Israeli breakfast. I didn't hear the most kind of core food that people think about when they think about Israel. Anybody in the... Thank you, hummus, exactly. So let's talk about hummus. Okay, we have a trivia here. And again, please use the chat. Or actually, for anyone who's on the screen, I ask you to put up your finger to show me the answer to this. So we're gonna talk about hummus trivia. 3 of these are true statements, and 1 of them is not true. Okay, so I'm gonna read them for everybody. The first one is 93% of Israelis eat hummus every week. Number 2, or B, most Israeli hummus is around 30 to 50% tahini. The third one is olive oil and garlic are in every hummus recipe. And the last one is a place where you eat hummus is called a hummusia. So can I see some fingers here? Which one? Or you can, A is number 1, B 2, C 4, 2. This is the not true. C 2, C. Thank you, Amy Shapiro. You are correct. Congratulations. So let's talk about these. 93% of Israelis eat hummus every day. Nobody seemed to be debating that. Hummus, very essential to our society. We can talk in a moment also about why that is. The second one, B, most Israeli hummus is around 30 to 50% tahini. That is very surprising to many people. But that is why Israeli hummus, as opposed to Greek hummus or other styles of hummus, is so creamy and delicious. Now, most recipes, when you look at them, they call for this much tahini. So you think, how can that be? that's where the mistake is. And that's where we get to the third one. Olive oil and garlic are in every hummus recipe. So garlic is in most hummus, but if you have an allergy, you can fairly leave it out. Olive oil, here's where the mistake is. When you use so much tahini and you want to blend it, a lot of people put oil in because they need to blend it, and that makes sense. But instead, you're going to use water, either ice water or water from the hummus, and tahini. And tahini is naturally very oily. It's the sesame paste. It comes from sesame. So the sesame oil is what's going to be used to get that consistency that makes it possible to blend and to emulsify. So olive oil, if you see in this picture here, it's on the hummus, and we use it to keep the hummus fresh, and so it doesn't get a brown film on it, but it is actually not it is not required for the hummus itself. And then the last one, true statement, what do you call a hummus? A place where you eat hummus is a hummusia. So let me get the next video up for you.
My name is Elad.
I wasn't sharing, was I? Guys, I've done this hundreds of times. I'm this bad every time. I apologize. Okay. Let's see if I can do it this time.
My name is Elad, and welcome to Hummus Shlomo and Doron. Hummus Shlomo and Doron is a family business running for over 83 years. I'm the fourth generation. Basically, what was served here for 2 generations is only a bowl of fava beans stew. Fava beans, it's a very traditional Egyptian dish. Even though my great-grandfather came from Yemen, he adopted this Egyptian dish and took it to its own world with a little bit of Yemenite spices. It was really, really common. 35 years ago, my father was the first one to make hummus in this place, and the rest is history. It became a really, really popular hummus place in Tel Aviv. And what I'm doing here is basically treating hummus differently, because in my opinion, I think that hummus should be more creative, and like every one of the generations, like my grandfather, my father, and me, we all made recent changes according to the period. And what I'm doing here is creating dishes on top of hummus, which is not presented as the main actor. It acts like the container of the dish. And in most of the cases, you can avoid the traditional ceremony of eating hummus with a pita. Pita bread, in my opinion, you can eat hummus with a fork and then have a lighter experience.
Have you heard of chocolate hummus that they're selling in the States?
This is also a repeated question about chocolate hummus. Okay, I'll say that I'm considered to be as a revolutionary with hummus dishes, but chocolate hummus, in my opinion, is something different. But if you're doing something sweet with chickpeas, so it should be a dessert, and dessert is not actually my main world. So I won't consider chocolate hummus as a hummus dish, but as an interesting dessert that you can do something interesting with it.
What about hummus that has no hummus inside? No chickpea?
Hummus with no chickpeas. Hummus contains tahini, and certain types of hummus are defined with different amount of tahini inside. We put in our hummus a lot of tahini, so the tahini is a main ingredient in the general taste of the paste. So in my opinion, if you use lentils maybe or peas or something with a huge amount of tahini, like 40-50%, that might taste like hummus, or might be near hummus.
Oh, I hear I got some notes in there about people being hungry. I warned you. This is such an important food in Israeli cuisine. Could anybody identify what that last thing that he was making was? And you can drop it into the chat if you happen to know. Any guesses there? It looked really delicious. Well, I'm gonna give people a minute to see if they have any guesses. But he, as he said himself, he's a revolutionary. Aha, good, very good. Genevieve got it. You are the winner. Shakshuka in hummus. It is actually a life-changing experience. And I say that because it changed my life. When he first started making this, I was actually one of those people who kind of doubted him. I have to be honest. I said, you know what, tradition is tradition. Your family's been making this for 80 years. He's fourth generation. What are you doing? Why you gotta mess it up? But don't break a good thing. The name of the restaurant is Shlomo and Doron that he's from, and Shlomo is the the great grandfather, and Doron is his father. After all these generations, like, what are you going to do? So then he said, try it. I did. It is the thing that I miss most when I'm not in Israel and when I'm not eating it. Now, why does hummus and shakshuka, first of all, why is that odd? And second of all, why is it amazing? So the reason it's odd is that shakshuka actually comes from North African origin. It wasn't typical until about 20 years ago to see it outside of the home. When I was growing up and we were coming to Israel, I never had heard of shakshuka. I didn't know what it was. First of all, I wasn't in the army. Second of all, before that, my grandmother, my grandparents are all of Eastern European origin. So this was very far from something that they had in their cuisine. So, and we didn't have any Tunisian relatives or Tunisian neighbors to learn from. This was a food that you would go and get at your grandmother's house or get in your family home that they would make. Now, it is the most simple food. It is chopped tomatoes, cooked really well with onions and spicy peppers with an egg cracked in on top. That said, it is a very hard dish to perfect. It's something we actually do a lot in our cooking classes because it's very simple, but there's so many ways you can spice it up and you can make green shakshuka, but that didn't used to be the case. It was grandma made it, you went to her house and you had it there. I didn't know it. Now, why is it weird then it would be with hummus? Because they were just two foods that didn't go together. Hummus was the street food that you would have, and it was usually from either Arab tradition or Jewish families that came from Arab tradition making this hummus, or innovators like Elad's family who came from Yemen. So what happened? How did this shakshuka and hummus dish combine? Well, people would come to Elad's place on Friday morning and he would hear them. One would say, no, I want something light. Let's go get shakshuka. And the other would say, no, I want hummus. And there would be this inevitable argument, and usually hummus is very heavy, so it's very much known as a kind of a masculine food. It's something that if you eat a bowl of it, which is what you do in Israel, it's not something that, like, me as a woman, like I don't necessarily want a bowl of hummus by myself on a Friday morning. So usually the woman would want the shakshuka. Again, I'm stereotyping. This is like, there are many options, but this is what was happening about 8 years ago, and so the woman would win because we do. And then and Elad said, no, let's try something. He tried to put the shakshuka on the hummus, and he was like, all right, we got something for everybody. We got something light. We have the hummus, which is a bit heavier, and let's put them together. It was brilliant. Hummus is their pH of it is base. The chickpea, which is the core of it, it's very base. Shakshuka, the core of it is the tomato, very acidic. This matching of the base and the acid was like this perfect umami situation happening in your mouth. So it was a huge discovery. And since then, he has taken this concept and he now makes all kinds of different versions, which are all really incredible. I, of course, have my favorites, which are the humshuka and this one in the photo, which is the Balkan version, which is with smoky eggplant, pickled sumac onions, Kalamata olives, spicy peppers. It's incredible. So the most important lesson that I've learned from Elad, Elad was the gentleman we saw in the video, respect your tradition, but don't be afraid to change it. And I think that's something very, very critical to what's happening today with Israeli cuisine, where we see a lot of chefs, young chefs who say, well, I don't know what Israeli food is. To me, if I want to open an Israeli restaurant, is it my Moroccan grandmother's food? Is it the street food that I grew up eating? Is it the kind of modern things that have come in? So you see young chefs who are saying, okay, I'm going to take my grandmother's Moroccan food, but I'm going to do interesting things with it. I'm going to put yuzu into her traditional meat recipe or whatever crazy combinations that is making it so innovative today. Okay, guys, we have a contest here. I realized after the last one that the motivation wasn't strong enough. So this time I have a prize for you, which I will send you. And I'm gonna turn off my screen share so that you can see it. Or my background, this wonderful, magical, sustainable, important for the world bag can be yours if you tell me. It says it's a little tote bag that folds into an orange, Delicious Israel branded. If you so go ahead. Let's see if anyone got into the chat already. We already have an answer there. Very good. Karen Say, the winner. Congratulations. B is the answer to this. I see here a question. The name of the restaurant, which is Shlomo Doron, is in Tel Aviv. Genevieve, that is a good guess that it is Pluto. It does, in fact, look like Pluto. I strongly believe that as well. Or it kind of also looks like a sponge for cleaning, and it definitely looks like a pancake, because essentially that's what it is. But it is B, a Yemenite bread. So Karen, I'm going to need your address to send this to you, so you can reach out to me after, or I can get it from someone here. But best to reach out to me after. I'll give you my information so that you can get that to me. So the Yemenite bread, and that leads us to our next fabulous video.
In the center of the Yemenite quarter, and we're going to eat one of my favorite things to get around here called lachuch. It's this Yemenite delicacy that kind of reminds me of a pancake. It's sort of like injera, or Ethiopian style bread. We're going to meet one of my favorite people in the Yemenite quarter named Irit. She's been making lachuch for decades, and she is quite a character. Let's check it out.
Hey, hi everybody. Welcome to my place. I used to go out with animal. Yeah, my father used to sit there with the nargila and sometimes with Arab. And we used to go outside here. It was empty, nothing like a midbar. So we go with the sheep and with everything. And now we're here. Now we make this lachuch, and you're gonna eat. This is lachuch. This is a dough. This is a dough. Actually, it's flour, yeast, fenugreek, lack of love. Is my. Okay. And now we make tomato and some spicy a little bit. Actually, I have to make schug. Cry. Dance with me, dance. And now you're gonna eat. Put it there. Here. Now you're gonna eat it. And L'chaim. And when you come to my place, you must to dance. It was Bee Gees, and now we have in the radio. Whoop-a! Take it. Welcome to the beautiful life. Whoop, whoop.
Infectious, right? It doesn't get much better than Irit and her magic. Irit is someone who really, when you come to Israel, you must come on a delicious Israel tour to come to her, because she's one of these characters that's in this back area of the Yemenite quarter. Her family, also Yemenite, came many generations ago, as she said, when it looked like a kibbutz, like there was sand and nothing there. And she's been making this lachuch dish that she makes forever. Now, there were some other elements in there that we could see. We had the schug, which is a spicy sauce made from cilantro and a few spices, depending on where you are, what they put in, maybe cumin, maybe some cardamom, blended, usually with some oil, perhaps garlic. Wonderful, wonderful topping that comes with all kinds of different Yemenite breads. And there's Yemenite, or the Yemenite cuisine, the Jewish cuisine, is known for two things: their breads and their soups. And the soups are very, very rich. So these breads are known to kind of sop up these soups, and they love spicy. So they put the schug in. And we also saw their arak. And arak is a type of anise kind of a liqueur. So it's a very divisive flavor. And we have arak kind of as a, like, it's kind of the toast that you have. Hold on one second. I seem to be having some sound issues. Sorry, can you hear me? Better? We're good? Okay, great. So the arak, which I was telling you about, it's this anise liqueur, a very divisive flavor, because anise is it's like licorice, kind of like ouzo or sambuca. So it's something that we have to kind of toast every occasion. So let's get back to the very important lessons that we are learning here. Number 3, important lesson: do it with love. And I think that's something that Irit and her energy, you do not go there unless you're ready for a boost of energy. She's always, always like that. And that's very important with Israeli cuisine. I think that if you ask most of the people, certainly in the markets, and a lot of the young chefs, they are doing this really out of their passion, out of their love. And if you certainly go to anyone's home, the family Shabbat meal, the creation of the kind of heritage dishes, it's really done with love and that tradition. And you feel it. You feel it in the food, you feel it in the produce, you feel it in the kinds of things that you eat just in your day-to-day. Now, there's one more thing that I do want to share with you before we kind of finish off, and this is not exactly food related, but an important part of our.
We are so happy you came to. We are so happy you came to visit Israel virtually, but it's just not the same here without you. Israel is waiting for you to come back.
you know, just a wonderful moment, beautiful soldier. She's part of the army band, and she wanted me to share that. We're all missing everybody who should be in Israel. I do want to kind of take the chance to open this up for any questions you guys have. I love to answer questions about Israeli cuisine or about anything going on in the Israeli food scene. So I do want to kind of open that up to anybody you know who might have a question. I will share on my screen here also where you can find us on Instagram. We're at Delicious Israel. Our new venture is Delicious Experiences. And please, if you want recipes of anything that we saw today, or just recipes in general, on our blog at deliciousisrael.com, we have a ton of different recipes, kinds of you know, things around Israeli, anything around Israeli cuisine you can find there, and definitely restaurant recommendations as well. So I'm actually going to take this off, and I will see if there are any questions, but definitely be in touch when you are in Israel. If anyone here who's watching has questions, you can also unmute if you'd like, or if you want to chime in about your favorite Israeli food that we didn't talk about today and we can talk about next time. Oh, thanks so much, Beth. Beth was in my cooking class in Israel, which we used to do in person, and we make a load of things, including hummus. Great question. Favorite cookbooks. The best, if anybody has not picked it up yet, Sababa by Adina Sussman. A good friend of mine lives very, very close to me, who does all of her shopping in the Carmel market. And when she first moved to Israel moved back to Israel a few years ago, we would go to the market, and it's like literally the best grocery store in the world, because you can find Asian produce, you can find anything you want, and it's fresh and it's straight from the fields. And you also find a lot of diverse international things. So Sababa, it's called, and it's really, really great for the home cook to learn real recipes and real ways to cook. I also love anything from Jana Gur, Janna, and her last name's Gur. She's really a soul of Israeli writing about Israeli cuisine. She used to be the editor of our main food magazine in Israel. Just a treasure chest of knowledge. Her and Einat Admoni, who has a restaurant in New York, they have a book called Shuk out together, but she also has a ton of other books. So anything from Jana Gur. And then, yeah, I would say those are definitely great go-tos. And let's see, just seeing if there's any other questions, anything you guys want to know.
You're planning to go back and hopefully restart your tours and classes? And
yeah, of course. I mean, we're just going to be here a few more weeks, and it's a good opportunity to be in touch with Delicious Experiences guests and to do these kinds of things on a time zone that makes sense, because I was doing these at 2 and 3 in the morning before we left. The timeline is so unknown. They're just now, so Israel was on a lockdown for 3 weeks. Things are opening back up starting on Sunday, including daycare, including some of the slowly moving into different things. But what happened was, and you guys probably know this, Israel opened up very, very quickly after a very harsh lockdown, and around the holiday times, it was just spiking. So we'll see. I mean, we're definitely looking forward to our in-person tours. It's been really hard for our vendors. It's been a real struggle. And honestly, we don't know yet what things will look like when we come back. I'm getting requests from tour companies for, let's say, June 2021, which hopefully, that will be a good opportunity for everyone and a good time for everyone. but we don't know what we can offer because we don't know who's going to be open. We know that the markets will be open, so we can do market tours, but we don't know what restaurants will be open. There are some restaurants that have, just like everywhere around the world, that have closed since. So it's very frustrating time, but also I think a lot of opportunity for us to explore Israel through this kind of new way. Question here is, do you have a recipe for good kanafe? I think we do have one on our blog. Reach out to me and I'll get you one. We actually do it in our classes. So if it's not on our blog, I'll get you one. So please reach out to me. You can reach out to me personally. It's Inbal, which is my first name, at deliciousisrael.com. So if there are no other questions, you guys are all staying in the same room, right? Same room. Okay, perfect. So I will sign out. Who am I handing this over to?
That's me.
So I just last thing before I go is just a big thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your Jaycation. I hope you continue to have interesting Jaycations, both of course locally and in the Twin Cities and beyond here in Israel with us. And thank you for sharing. And I hope I can share some good sabich, good falafel, good shakshuka and a hummus with you soon. And please, again, big shout out to all the hard work and the supporters. Please support this incredible cause so that you can continue to have wonderful programming, have people like me from Israel come to share with you. So thank you very much. Genevieve, back to you.